Awesome. Okay, so PSU, thank you for having me. Sammy, you did an awesome job opening for me. Thank you. I don't know what else I need to say now. I'm excited to be here. This is an amazing event, and I want to share with you my athletic journey and how I experienced the pre-Title IX and then finally Title IX. I was standing in a cement tunnel. There were people all around me. It was so loud, I could barely hear my own thoughts. Flashes, they started flying off everywhere in front of me. The crowd started to run, so I began to run. And then we ran faster. My adrenaline had fully kicked in. Then we erupted into the stadium. I heard, USA! USA! I had made it. I was in the 2006 opening ceremonies for the Olympic Games in Torino, Italy. As a 9-year-old girl, I never would have known the impact Title IX, I'm gonna blow up in a second. I would have never known the impact Title IX was gonna have on my life. We're not blowing up, we're good. I started out doing ballet, gymnastics, competitive swimming, when a simple conversation changed all of this. My mom was at a PTA meeting. Another mom said, "Would Kelly like to go ice skating with my son Jacob?" Sure, why not? That sounds fun. So I went ice skating, came home. Mom, Dad, I want to play ice hockey next year. I love the sport of ice hockey. Let's see if I can. That's me, 9 years old. Having a thin blade underneath my foot, a stick in my hands, I could skate 10 times faster than I could ever run. All this chase this stupid little black puck around the ice to try and score. I had to be present the entire time, because if I wasn't, I was either going to get clobbered by another hockey player or smoke the boards. Just that skill, when I took a shot to lift the puck off the ice, it took me over a year to figure out how to do that. Ice hockey was requiring me to learn a whole new skill set, and I loved the challenge. Because of this new passion, I decided I'm going to do this year-round, which meant my other sports, ballet, gymnastics, and swimming, they just kind of fell off the radar. Living on the West Coast, hockey is not a mainstream sport. It's not even an after-school sport. It's a huge commitment. My mom and my dad would drive me to practice at 5 a.m. when I was younger and 8 p.m. when I got older. And then every other weekend, they took a 5-hour round-trip commute up to Vancouver, Canada, just so I could play hockey games. Even in 4th grade, once a week my mom did that 5-hour commute just so I could have a private hockey lesson. Playing in Seattle also meant I was playing boys hockey, because the girls' team, it didn't exist. In the association I played in, there's only a handful of girls. And on my team of 20, I was the only girl. Being the only girl wasn't easy. I got teased a lot. And I didn't get a lot of ice time in games either. To be exact, I got about 30 seconds. 30 seconds in a 60-minute game. That's the equivalent to a basketball player getting 15 seconds of playing time the whole game. And it wasn't that I wasn't good enough to play, because I was. Each year, I continued to make the top local boys team. I think it was more the coaches who were also parents saw a future for the boys. They could go play professional or national hockey league, whereas maybe they didn't see that for me, or maybe they didn't want their daughters playing the sport. So I was 11 years old, we had a home game, brought my hockey bag, which is a huge bag full of my hockey gear, down to the locker room. Changed into my warm-up clothes, went upstairs to warm up with the guys before the game. After I warmed up, came back down to the locker room. I walked in the locker room, looked for my hockey bag, and all of my teammates were laughing at me. As I walked in the locker room, I noticed on all the hooks there hanging was my undergarments. And then I heard the shower going. So I walked in the shower room. And there on the floor, spread out, was all my hockey gear, soaking wet. I was completely mortified. I then went to find my coach, Coach, my gear's soaking wet. What should I do about it? Suck it up. Suck it up at 11 years old? So I go put on the soaking wet hockey gear, go out for the game, sit in an ice rink, freezing cold. Now I didn't only get this treatment from my own teammates. I also, every time I stepped on the ice during the games, it was as if I had this huge target on my chest and said, "Come hit me!" Because whether or not I had the puck, I seemed to be getting hit. I also got earfuls of crude, inappropriate, sexist comments from the opposing players, coaches, and parents. And this is just one tame example of several I experienced in my first 3 years of playing ice hockey. The impact this had on me was profound. Fortunately, I have amazing love and support from both my parents and my brother Blake. This gave me the strength to handle all these derogatory comments I got at the hockey rink. Instead of letting this teasing cripple me, it lit a fire in me. I was going to prove everyone wrong about me and girls playing ice hockey, and hopefully shut them up for good. I was going to be the most dedicated, hardworking, feisty girl they had ever met. And it was this inner drive, this is what allowed me to do all the little extra things I needed to excel as an ice hockey player. I'm the player in the white jersey. You can kind of see the size difference. That's why I had to be a feisty hockey player. When I was 12 years old, and again at 14, take that back, at 14, I went to 2 8-team elimination national tournaments. That's the equivalent to the boys' Little League World Series in baseball with a girl on the team. Now, ice hockey uses a lot of different lingo to describe the game, and also has many different levels than most sports. On a team in ice hockey, there's 4 offensive, or as we call them, forward lines. On each line, it consists of 3 players. You have your center, your left wing, and a right wing. It's kind of like soccer. You have your offense, a defense, and then a goalie. Now the first line, they're going to accumulate 30 to 40 minutes of ice time in a game. Fourth line, maybe 2 minutes. And many times I'm asked, why do you change and come on and off the ice so much? You seem to be doing it all the time. Well, we call that a hockey shift. A hockey shift only lasts 45 seconds to a minute. Now, this seems short, but when you go out on the ice, it's this huge burst of energy. You're changing directions, and you're physically battling people the entire time. So at the end of that 45 seconds, if you've gone all out, you're going to be tired, so you better get off the ice. It's kind of like soccer substitutions, except you don't need the ref to allow you to go on and off the ice. So for example, a first line, go out for the 45-second shift, come off, second line goes out 45 seconds. When the second line comes back off, instead of the third line going back on, that first line is going to go back on the ice. And that's how they accumulate 30 to 40 minutes, whereas the fourth line, third line, they'll kind of be there to relieve that first or second line when needed. There's also many different levels in hockey. It's not like basketball or softball, where you have your junior high ball, JV varsity, college, and then professional. Hockey, you start as a squirt, 9 and 10-year-olds. Then you have pee-wees. We have a lot of really good names for these too. Pee-wees, 11, 12-year-olds. Next is bantams, 13, 14. And then you have midgets, 15 to 18-year-olds. That's why I said stay with me. Next to midgets, you have junior hockey. Junior hockey is 15 to 18-year-olds. Typically, junior hockey players are a little bit better. And then from here, you have 2 paths to go professional, okay? You have, from midgets or juniors, you have college, professional, or you can go semi-pro, professional. The Portland Winterhawks, semi-professional hockey team. So they have decided to forego college because they're getting paid and on the path to go professional hockey. I share this with you to help you kind of stay with me in my journey. So here I was, it was early March, I was a freshman in high school. I just started getting a decent amount of playing time in games, 15 minutes out of the 60. But come September, I was going to be jumping up to the next age bracket, the midget age bracket, so 15 to 18-year-olds. These boys would be bigger, and they would be better. But before I tried out for the midget team, the 2 guys at the head of the association I was in sat me down. Kelly, You are not playing midgets next year. We just started a girls' team. That's where you belong. I went and watched this girls' team play. They were learning how to skate. That's the equivalent to telling a player who had just played in the Little League World Series that next year, they're playing t-ball. I was not going to play on this new girls' team. Still playing boys hockey. That same spring, I got a letter addressed, Mr. Kelly Stevens. My name's Kelly Stevens. Mr. Kelly Stevens. I remember my dad handing it to me with a huge smirk on his face. I opened it. It was an invitation to a scouting camp up in Vancouver, Canada. This invitation-only camp was going to have scouts from all over North America at it, recruiting players for Division I college hockey and men's professional hockey. I was both excited and terrified for this opportunity. I said, Mom, Dad, I have to go. But I got smart. I made sure my hair was short enough that it didn't hang out from underneath my helmet. So up I went to the scouting camp. Now the guys that were playing on my team, they knew I was a girl. And the head guy that ran the whole camp, Roy, he knew I was a girl as well. But the scouts, they did not. So I play in the first 4 games, and I do really well. On Sunday morning, there's going to be an all-star game. The scouts choose the top 40 players out of 160 to play this all-star game. I was on that list, and I was pumped. Here I am going to the all-star game. That's awesome. So then there's a banquet Saturday night before the all-star game, and I'm sitting at the banquet. It's for the players and the coaches and parents, and the scouts are there. And Roy's standing up on the stage talking about the camp, and then I hear, would Kelly Stevens please join me up on the stage? I start shaking, not knowing where he's going with this. So I go up there and he puts his arm around me and goes, I would like to introduce everyone to Kelly Stevens. She has been playing here and doing well and blah, blah, blah. Continues to tell him about me and where I'd come from. And so then he finishes up the story about the banquet, and I sit down and the banquet ends, and he finds me and he walks me out. And he brings me over to the board with a list of the names for the All-Star game. I'm on the list, and Roy walks over and crosses me out. Roy, what are you doing? I don't understand. And he puts his arm around me. Kelly, listen to me. The game is not ready for a girl to play at this level. I was crushed. I'd worked so hard and done everything in my control to excel as a hockey player. And now, I was completely powerless to achieve my goals. At the age of 14, my hockey career was over. So I went home, and within a week, I got a phone call from Roy. He called to tell me about a private school his son was attending up in Vancouver. I listened as he told me about this private school, Delphi Academy. It was a school filled with kids who were looking to get college scholarships or professional contracts for farm teams. The school had 100 kids in it, grades 6 through 12, 5 of them were girls. I immediately went up and visited the school, and I knew it was where I needed to be to keep playing hockey. And the school had 3 sports, baseball, hockey, and golf. Came home, Mom, Dad, I have to go to Delphi Academy. There's no other option. And again, it was super supportive parents. They allowed me to move up to Canada and finish my freshman year in high school just before I turned 15. Delphi Academy, so when you're up there, the school assigns you to a host family. Now, a host family is responsible to provide you with a room, dinner, and transportation to and from school. The rest was on me. Leaving home was the hardest decision I've ever had to make. I'm so close to my family. They're my safe place. I will never forget packing my things, taking the drive up to Canada, moving in with this family I had never met, unpacking my things, and watching my parents pull out of the driveway to go home. I bawled my eyes out. I was thinking, Did I really just make the right decision? I don't know if I can do this. But then again, in my heart, I knew if I wanted to keep playing hockey, Delphi was where I had to be. Living on my own, though, I had to learn how to cook, do laundry, clean, all the fun stuff. And I quickly realized all those little things that my mom did that I took for granted. I would catch the bus, go to school. And by the way, the school was one hallway with 6 classrooms. That's it. Go to school from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Then all the kids would go to their respective sports. So I'd hop on a bus, go to the nearby rink, and we'd practice for 2 hours every afternoon. I was in hockey heaven. These guys were awesome. I mean, most of them were on the path to Division I college, professional teams, and here I was playing with them. And I was getting 2 hours of ice time every afternoon. Unlike in Seattle, we had practice twice a week for 1 hour. So just having the extra ice time, I was improving exponentially. During the year I was living in Vancouver, Roy called Wally Kozak. Wally? He's the Canadian women's Olympic team head scout. When I turned 16, Wally asked me to come play for his team out in Calgary. It so happened, this team was the Canadian women's national team. Packed my things, threw them in my little Nissan Sentra, and drove out to Calgary. I was now starting 11th grade in high school. My initial arrangement, I was living in a basement with one of the other team players. Again, I was responsible for grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, as well as managing my school life and going to the training center every day to train. Oh, and I should mention, the Calgary school system was an entire year ahead of the Seattle's. So I had a lot on my plate. This was also going to be the first time I would play with girls or women. Now, these weren't just women playing. They were world-class athletes. A lot of them, they'd already been to the Olympics. I was the youngest on the team, and the women hated me. I was an American training in the Canadian facility. But Wally, he was in my court. He wanted to help me. He'd been the first person to ever say, "You're really good." And coming from him, that meant the world to me. Now, when we got on the ice and were playing, it wasn't full check like I was used to. But it was still a very physical, aggressive game. And because I was an aggressive, physical player, that suited me just fine. But at the time, being 5'3" and a $123, it was impossible for me to outmuscle these 6 foot, 180-pound women. So I was a bit of a less of a physical presence on the ice. During the 6 months I was there, the word got out. There was an American training in the Canadian system. They told me, "You can't play in any games." And it progressed to where everyone except Wally said, "You have to leave." Wally, though, would make a phone call unbeknownst to me that would change the rest of my life. 6 months later, after Calgary, I was back in Vancouver, going to school, living with my Canadian host family. One night, my Canadian host family mom, Carol Ann, came into my room with this really curious look on her face. She's like, "There's a man on the phone, and he says he's the U.S. Olympic coach?" Here I am thinking it's a friend pranking me. "Hello? Hi, Kelly. How old are you? How tall are you? How much do you weigh?" But from that phone call, I knew it was the real deal, not a friend pranking. It was from that phone call I got invited to the U.S. Women's National Camp, which was going to be held in June in Lake Placid, New York. This was going to have the top 80 women players in the U.S. at this camp, as well as Division I coaches from all over the country scouting players. I came home from that U.S. scouting camp, a women's team. It was summertime. I moved back home, living in Seattle, July 1st, first day of the legal recruiting period for college. 7 a.m. in the morning, my mom comes in with the phone. "Kelly, it's for you." "Hello?" "Hi, Kelly. This is Coach Stone from Harvard. I'm just calling to tell you about my program, and I would like you to attend it." Are you kidding me? The coach from Harvard is calling me. I continued to be shocked for the next 3 months. I had over 30 Division I colleges call and offer me full scholarships to their programs. What's funny about this story, though? is most athletes in high school, they know if they're going to college or on scholarship. Whereas truly in my world, I had no idea. I had no idea anyone would even be interested in me, let alone offer me a full scholarship. I was 17 years old, living at home, high school year, and I got recruited to play for the Vancouver Griffins, a National Women's Hockey League team in their first year. Now, we didn't get paid or anything, but that was the goal in the years to come. I decided to play on this team, make the commute 3 times a week up to Canada to play. And bless her heart, my mom drove me after school so I could do my homework. Talk about the ultimate soccer mom. During my senior year, I also went on 5 official Division I visits. I decided to go to the University of Minnesota, which has a mascot, the Golden Gopher. I'd never heard of a Golden Gopher before this. But as I went there on my official visit, I knew in my gut that's where I needed to be to play hockey. My 4 years at the University of Minnesota were the best hockey years of my life. It was the first time I was playing with girls my own age, and they were really good. Going in, I didn't know what to expect, but it would turn out to be awesome. Now, I needed a full year just to adjust to this women's game. The men's game, it's a passing game. If you hang on to the puck, you get clobbered. If you don't have the puck, you go to where it's going to be going. In the women's game, they hung on to the puck forever. This was going to be a hard adjustment for me. Now, the physical game on the ice was also going to be an adjustment for me. It wasn't that we weren't allowed to play physical, because we were. It was just these women players, they weren't ready for it. So I'd go on the ice like I had against women in Calgary. And I'd run into a player, and they would fall down. So Stevens would go to the penalty box for a 2-minute penalty. Now, the penalty box in hockey, you sit off the rink to the side, watch as your team plays at a disadvantage, and that's now for my team against their 5 for the 2 minutes. There was even situations where a player would come to get physical because they're mad at me, come at me, and they would fall down again. So who went to the penalty box? I did. For a while there, I was leading the league in penalty minutes. I was spending over half of my ice time in the penalty box. Fortunately, I was also almost leading the conference in scoring. But, as my coach pointed out, my physical presence was becoming a liability. While I had been the first quality coach I had had up until this point, but as I began my college career, I noticed that all the coaches were of high caliber. I now recognize that was a direct result of Title IX. The schools had the money to hire quality staff and offer them a career. The schools also had the money to provide us players with training, facilities, gear, quality staff, and top educational experiences. Most of this we had never had before. For me, it was the first time I'd ever had a fun, supportive environment, and it lasted me 4 years. Built for my sophomore year, it was the first women's ice hockey rink in the country. Ritter Arena is a state-of-the-art facility. Ritter Arena is nicer than a lot of men's rinks. It was by far the nicest rink I had played in up until this point. We averaged 1,500 fans at our home games, which led the country. I felt so much support from our fans and from our school. That's part of the benefit of going to college in Minnesota, the hockey state of America. I remember going to the grocery store, buying groceries, swiping my credit card, the cashier saying, "Great game last night, Stevens." Are you kidding? Do you know who I am? At the University of Minnesota, I was a local celebrity, which was something I really had to get used to. Being a girl growing up had always been a disadvantage playing sports. Now, it was no longer working against me. I would get up, go to class, then go work out. At our workout facility, we had a $40,000 skating treadmill. I don't know about you, but I had never heard of a skating treadmill. For a hockey player, I now know that's the ultimate beatdown machine. So anyways, this thing's insane. You put on a harness, put on your hockey skates, have a hockey stick in your hands, and you step on this rotating machine that's got this special plastic that you can skate on, while our strength coach stood off to the side with this little dial, faster, slower, faster, whatever, right? After most of the workouts, I thought I was going to puke. We talk about state-of-the-art training facility. So I'd finish my workouts, go back to class, grab lunch, and then go to the rink for 4 hours every afternoon. We practiced for 2 hours, and I remember I loved walking into our locker room. The huge M emblem on the floor, inspirational quotes painted all above our hockey stalls, and we had this sweet separate room for our street clothes. I'd finish practice, and then I had the option. I could go do my homework at a tutor building to get help, which I took advantage of, or go home to my apartment. My teammates in Minnesota were my family away from home, and I was creating relationships that would last my lifetime. Being a part of a team is always more fun when you love your teammates and you win. Being on the Gopher team, my teammates supported me, and I trusted that they would always have my back. And this was the first time I had ever experienced this before. It was this trust that allowed us to be a great team. Every year, as at the U of M, we were ranked one of the top 4 teams in the country. My junior and senior year, we were back-to-back national champions. It was awesome. My senior year, though, was a dream year. I was voted co-captain. We were defending national champs, which in itself is a pretty cool, challenging position to be in, being the team to beat. But we were a great team. We were the best team in the country. And we proved that with a record, 36 wins, 2 losses, 2 ties. This record was the most wins in a season or conference action since the Gophers began in 1997. And part of the reason that we did so well was we had the top 3 forwards in the country playing together on the line. I was the left wing, Chrissy Wendell was the center, and Natalie Darwitz was the right wing. As athletes say, these are my peeps. You hear athletes talk about playing in the zone. When the 3 of us played together, it was as if the game got easy. We just clicked. And we scored goals. We scored lots and lots of goals. As our coach said, this might be the best line to ever play in the sport of women's ice hockey. During my college career, I had also been playing on the U.S. national team. So during our breaks at college, at Christmas and spring break, me and my line mates, we would join the U.S. team all over the world to play tournaments. Right after actually one of our national championship games in New Hampshire, which you're pretty excited about, you want to party, well, the 3 of us the next morning at 5 a.m., hungover, got on a prop plane, flew up to Toronto, where at 5 p.m. that night, we were playing in a world tournament game with a U.S. team. Now, unfortunately, when we played on the U.S. team, the 3 of us weren't aligned together. But here I was, playing top-notch hockey non-stop. I was living my dream full out. In May 2005, I graduated from the University of Minnesota, decided to live in Minnesota, though, for the summer, train with my 2 line mates, because in August, I would be trying out for the Olympic team. And just because you're on the national team does not mean you automatically make the Olympic team, unfortunately. Or fortunately. So, in August, tried out for the team, and I made the first cut. There's 3 total cuts to make the Olympic team. So from August till December, we traveled as the U.S. team around the country playing promotional games. The final cut was 2 days before Christmas. It was December 23rd, 2005. We're out east, sitting in a banquet room in a hotel. Our head coach walks up to the podium, puts on his reading glasses, grabs this piece of paper, and starts reading last names. Having the last name Stevens, I was the second to last name called. You want to talk about gut-wrenching. I remember at the time thinking, did I really just hear my name? Did I just make the 2006 Olympic team? Yep. 1 week later, me, Chrissy, and Natalie were on a plane to Torino, Italy for the Olympics. The Olympics, they're the pinnacle of women's ice hockey, and here I was. I was in Italy for over a month, and it was like living in a dream bubble. The security, just to get in and out of the Olympic Village, was literally like the security in the airports today. You had metal detectors, those conveyor belts to throw all your stuff on. We got escorted to and from the hockey rinks on buses with security guards that had machine guns. When you're in the Olympic Village, the best part was being surrounded by all of these world-class athletes. I loved meeting them and hearing their stories and journey of how they became an Olympian. One of my favorite memories was when we first got there. We were brought to a warehouse and given these huge shopping carts, like Costco-sized shopping carts, and told to go around to these vendors and try on US Olympic gear. So we got like hats, jackets, pants, shoes. I walked out of there with this heaping full shopping cart of clothes. So it was really neat to go back to the Olympic Village and see every athlete proudly representing their countries in their Olympic gear. Being in Italy was like icing on the cake to my hockey career, although it didn't quite end how I was hoping it would with a gold medal. In the semifinal game, we were in overtime in a shootout when we lost to Sweden. A huge, huge disappointment. It would be the first time in Olympic history the US was not going to be in the gold medal game. We had to play the next day against Finland for the bronze medal. And mentally, that was the hardest game I have ever played in. Our coach decided it was finally time to put our Minnesota line back together. We hadn't even practiced in over a year together. But our line started the game. And it was my goal in that first shift that was all that was needed to win the bronze medal. Now, winning the gold medal was tough at first, but when I took a step back and realized what we had done, I was grateful to come home with a medal. Representing the USA was a real honor. But what no one prepared me for was accomplishing all of my athletic dreams by the time I was 22 years old. After the Olympics, I knew my career as a competitive athlete was over. I wanted a new challenge. I wasn't enticed to do another Olympics. I'd already done that. I wanted a new path. I wanted a new career. So I took 6 months, moved back to Seattle, and tried new hobbies. I tried things I had never had time to do while I was playing ice hockey. And today, I'm the president of a charitable kids foundation. We focus on kids ages 4 through 12 and empower them through purposeful play. I also love working with sports teams of all ages and all levels. Playing on a team sport is such a powerful experience. I learned skills, and we all learn skills that you will use through your jobs, relationships, and for the rest of your life. Although I have no regrets in my past, I do recognize that the impact my early years had on me are experiences I would never want my own daughter to have. And they're not necessary to be successful. So now my charitable foundation is my platform to impact kids in a positive way. And still to this day, though, when I hear the US anthem, I get goosebumps. It puts me right back on the ice, scraping my ice skates back and forth. My adrenaline kicks in, and I'm waiting for the game to begin. Thank you.